The views and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to the hosts and their guests and do not reflect the views of any on-site institutions unless explicitly stated.
What's up, everybody? My name is Steve Vanderwall.
And I'm Justin Glesner,
and we're your hosts of Cannabis Cum Laude, a podcast devoted entirely to cannabis. We're going to talk cultivation, business, medicine, politics, culture, advocacy, and everything in between.
The cannabis industry is complicated. It's robust. It has a lot of moving parts, and it's our job to help you understand it just a little bit better. So tune in every week for a brand new episode. And if you have a question that you'd like answered on the show, send it on over to questions@cannabiscumlaude.com. Thanks. Enjoy the show. What's up, Cum Laude Coalition, and welcome back to another episode of Cannabis Cum Laude. Steve has some business to attend to this week, so we have a good friend of mine from my time in service with me as a guest host. George Glessner was the medic from my company when we deployed, and he now works for the VA in Oregon and thus provides an awesome perspective on this conversation that we're having today. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of sitting down in studio with Curt Boshnak of Warfighter Hemp Foundation, and we also have on Zoom Bryan Buckley of the Battle Brothers Foundation and the Helmand Valley Growers Company. Today, we have the Veterans Roundtable. As a Special Operations Team Commander with the Marine Raiders, Bryan led multiple teams and deployments to Operation Enduring Freedom, Trans-Sahara, Southeast Asia, and Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan. Developed rapport with numerous host nations, enhanced capability and capacity within the host nation units, and briefed U.S. ambassadors. Led a 20-man Marine Raider team to Afghanistan that mentored, trained, and conducted over 40 combat operations with an Afghan Special Operations Battalion. Bryan also deployed twice to Operation Iraqi Freedom with Marine Infantry and Marine Reconnaissance. Bryan is an accomplished sales and operations leader as well as an alum of Villanova University. He was awarded the Bronze Star with Combat Distinguishing Device for heroic service and awarded the Purple Heart Medal for wounds received during combat operations. On the other side of the table from me, we have Curt Boshnak. He is a hemp and veteran advocate of Rochester, New York. In 2009, Curt left Rochester to go to the Marine Corps boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. He served just under 6 years in the Marines from 2009 to 2015. 2009 to 2011, he held a unique position as a SharePoint developer with the administrative MOS at Systems Integration in Camp Pendleton, California. In 2012, he was accepted into the Marine Security Guard School and conducted internal security at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. Shortly after the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi, Libya, was attacked in September 2012, he was selected as one of 36 Marines to help start up an MSG external security unit in Quantico. It was called the Marine Security Augmentation Unit. From 2012 to 2015, he served on 3 short-term deployments in Tunis, Tunisia, Bangkok, Thailand, and Juba, South Sudan. In 2014, he became the Marine Security Augmentation Unit's range coach and was sent to the Department of State certification program called Basic Field Firearms Officer Course. This certification helped train MSAU on 10 different weapon systems. We're able to have this roundtable here today because of Curt. He set this whole thing up, so he's obviously a networking specialist as well. He also spent some time working at Bayhouse Seeds in Geneva, New York. I apologize, guys, for the long-winded intros, but these gentlemen are very distinguished. They deserve to be introduced as such, and I want to apologize to you guys for kind of stumbling through that. That was a little bit of a mouthful there for me. But
that was a lot, but good job. Powered through.
Anyways, gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Life is good. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing great.
Fantastic. Doing absolutely fantastic. Before we dive in, both of you are involved in organizations that are created with veterans in mind and are also doing your part in order to give back to the community. One at a time, would you guys mind telling me what inspired you to kind of get back into giving back to veterans following your service? What wanted to keep you in that world?
Why don't you go ahead, Curt?
Absolutely. I'm going to clear my throat real quick and get at it. Yeah, but so what inspired me to help vets is I think it's already what you know, is because if you pay attention to good leadership in the military, pick out those good points, make it your own, those kinds of leaders always give back. And so I think that was instilled in me. And as I got out of the military, I was searching for military-friendly companies, things like that, which is highly marketed, and it's great that there's an avenue into some corporate positions. But what led me to Warfighter was just wanting to get into
The cannabis space.
yeah, the hemp and cannabis space. Yeah, the hemp and cannabis space. And it was just me emailing individual companies that try to break in to the industry, which is tough. If you don't have any experience, it's very tough. So to wrap up that thought, Warfighter Hemp brought me on, and I can speak to more of that later.
Definitely.
And a big part of Warfighter is the founder, Luker, Stephen Daniluk, also called Luker. He owns two nonprofits. One is Spartan Sword, or helped co-founded two nonprofits, Spartan Sword and then the Independence Corps Foundation. So
Okay.
one helps veteran, combat against veteran suicide, and the other helps quadriplegics, people that have mobility issues, to give them wheelchairs and opportunities to live normal lives. So that inspired me to push for this opportunity harder.
Absolutely.
Wrapping up that long thought, but there you go.
Hey, no, you're good. You're good. Absolutely. I would love to get links to those things from you, and whatever we can have people to help contribute to those nonprofits. And we'll make sure we put them in the show notes so that they're easily clickable, and we kind of get some traffic going over there.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks.
How about yourself, Bryan?
Sure. So I got out towards the end of 2013, had a very nice job with an ed tech firm, but really wasn't fulfilled during that time. And I really started noticing what was happening to veterans getting out of the military. So kind of came together and thought about, is there a way we can put a nonprofit together that kind of focuses on veterans? There's a ton of nonprofits that did a really great job with the active duty forces along with their families. So we came up with Battle Brothers. In original, we had a 3-tier approach of personal, medical, and economic. So personal, helping that active duty military transition to veteran life, kind of like a big brother, big sister network. Medical wise, we were helping out with VA disability claims, and also with veterans who were suffering with opiate, alcoholism, post-traumatic stress, or all of the above, getting them into a treatment center free of charge, let them take a knee and kind of recalibrate, get back out into the fight. And then the last part was the economic phase, in terms of finding that veteran a job. It's like the guidance counselor says, hey, you got $1 million. What do you want to do with your life? And that way they have that same sense of purpose like they did while they served in the military, with the hopes of avoiding a mistake they can't come back from. And during this time, we had a really rough deployment in the summer of 2012 in Helmand province, Afghanistan, actually all throughout Afghanistan. And we had one colonel tell us it was probably the bloodiest summer for Special Operation Forces since the Vietnam War. And I always tell people that's not a badge of honor. That's just the reality of the arena we're fighting in. So one of the other founders, Andy Myers, who's actually our director of cultivation for Helmand Valley Growers Company, was just looking really great one week. And I asked him, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I gave up the fifth of Jack for a joint. And we were like, whoa. And started talking more about that. And he's like, listen, I'm not drinking and driving. I'm not blacking out at night. He's like, I'm waking up in the morning feeling refreshed. And he's like, and to be honest with you, I'm getting into cultivation, and it's helped me transition from a warrior to a gardener. So I thought that was pretty impactful. And I started trying some cannabis. I'm 100% disabled myself. First night I got a full night of sleep. So we were like, what can we do besides just being advocates? There's great advocacy groups out there, but maybe we can move the dial a little bit more aggressively. And had an opportunity to talk with members of Congress and just said, what do we have to do in order to get this into the VA medical system? And they said, if you guys can get data and get American doctors, you're going to have a good argument. So through a bunch of twists and turns, we've ended up partnering with a firm out of Israel called Niametic Healthcare and Research Services, along with the University of California at Irvine. And they're all on board. We were trying to figure out how to pay for an institutional review board. These things are very expensive. If you don't have an IRB, it doesn't really count, essentially, in the medical world. And with our first $50,000 of profit that we got from our for-profit company called Helmand Valley Growers Company, we threw that right back into Battle Brothers and was able to have a study design developed, submitted to the Institutional Review Board, and it was approved. And we're about to kick off our first study to see if medical cannabis can reduce the symptoms of post-traumatic stress using medical cannabis. So we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be about a 3-phase approach. But essentially, you got Battle Brothers sponsoring this research, and you got Helmand Valley helping to fund the research with 100% of our profits going back to veteran medical cannabis research. So we started this initiative back in 2016, and here we are now in 2021 getting ready to really kick off the research side, which is very exciting.
That's amazing. We, just to kind of tease this a little bit, at the end of this part, audience, we are going to be doing a giveaway. And I was trying to come up with what I was going to do in order to get entered into this giveaway. And I was writing this episode and like reading through, doing my due diligence and research and seeing how Warfighter and Battle Brothers and HVGC all give back to veterans, and was like, okay, so I'm not going to give too much away because I want people to listen, but you guys have inspired me into what the topic of the giveaway is going to be. And I just really want to make sure everybody realizes how much that your guys' companies are doing their part to make sure they give back, right? Because this group of individuals, this one, what is it, 1%, right, of the nation who serve, are typically abandoned by most. And so to have people coming around and trying to fix that, to me, is a beautiful thing. And I just want to make that completely clear. This is a really important episode to my heart personally, and obviously you guys as well. You guys have gone out and started full companies on this, so it's or in the works of doing so. Either way.
True.
So, anyways, I do want to kind of start out in the Battle Brothers realm, as a good base to jump off from. But before we dive into that, I do want to know what got George into wanting to go work at the VA. What inspired you to get over into there, sir?
Well, I wanted to get back into like a healthcare setting, and I had hit a pretty big rough patch in 2015. Most people, at least that we served with, know it was just a dark legal and medical chaos. And so I had to completely restart my life. Wasn't able to be an EMT anymore. And so I was working with the VA on its comprehensive work therapy. So you can come in, you work tax-free, and you start learning jobs within the VA. So I actually started in housekeeping on the floor crew for 6 months, just every night waxing the floors, and got to know everybody. They started figuring out my background, and I ended up getting offered a job when it opened for rehabilitation technician. It's people with PTSD and substance abuse issues, which kind of go together. And the program is going through a lot of changes right now. They're trying to really vamp up a PTSD program. They don't really have one right now. They mostly are concentrating on drugs and alcohol rehab. But then just very recently, I just got a new job it's called Whole Health. It's a new-ish program that the VA is working with to try and kind of branch out from what they normally did. So battlefield acupuncture, alpha stim, and hopefully down the road, we're going to be branching into hemp, whatever we can. They're trying to go down the legal route with that now, which it makes it difficult. So I mean,
it really even makes just having a company difficult. Sorry, George, didn't mean to jump over there.
I was just saying, having what like Bryan's doing now, that's going to help the VA from us on the inside immensely when we were trying to tell them, hey, this is a real thing. And there's research and science behind it now.
Absolutely. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence all over the place. I myself am a medical patient in New York. And fortunately for us in New York, PTSD is on the list of approved ailments, for lack of a better word. So you can then get a recommendation for PTSD, which is pretty cool. And that's not just being a veteran, and we need to make that perfectly clear. Actually, I wanted to get to this point a little bit later, but you gentlemen work with this on a more regular basis, so, and probably can put this more eloquently than I would be able to put. For our audience members who may not have a firm grasp on what PTSD is, would one of you be willing to kind of lay that out in like kind of what your view of it is? Because that's like in my opinion, at the core of what is troubling most veterans for sure. And that's like, if even if there's other ancillary problems, typically it comes back from something to do in that PTS or PTSD realm. Did it officially, I feel like sounds silly now because it is officially PTS now, right? Like we don't just have, it's not a disorder anymor. It's just post-traumatic stress.
Medically, I think for us, we all kind of go post-traumatic stress, but I would say medically, they still do the PTSD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So post-traumatic stress disorder, if you include the D, but like what is that? I'm gonna go ahead and throw it at you, Bryan.
Yeah, the way I look at post-traumatic stress, it's not a military issue, it's a human condition. Like any one of us can suffer from it. If you're walking down the street, you see a horrific car accident, that can lead to post-traumatic stress. I think for us, they're still trying to decide. There have been some pretty good white papers I've read where they talk about like 7 stressors, like imminent death, wounded, seeing someone wounded, sexual harassment, things of that nature are all kind of indicators of post-traumatic stress. So, for example, when I was going through with the VA, me walking in there with the units I was in and things I was exposed to, I hit like 6 or 7 stressors. I was never sexually harassed, thank God. So they pretty much said, hey, through our checklist, I mean, you're there. I think when you go down to a micro level to the individual veteran, it's different for all of us. For me, I have no remorse, no sympathy for the enemy that we killed on the battlefield. Don't feel bad about that one night at all. I sleep well at night knowing that we eliminated them and they don't walk on this earth anymore. For me, was seeing the civilians get wrapped up into a horrific situation, mainly women and children, where the enemy would use them as human shields. And we would do everything possible to expose ourselves into greater danger to ensure we did it right. But however, things are perfect. And these savages, as you are seeing now play out on TV through all the news outlets showing the Taliban, they are semi-human in my eyes. So that led to me having hypervigilance. It really kind of triggered when I started having kids. It just kind of the anxiety and things at nighttime and just kind of watching every move they do to keep them safe. Even my doctors warned me, they're like, that's going to be something you have to be cognizant of. And you have to kind of give your wife a heads up because you're going to be kind of in leader mode where you're going to try to corral them and keep them safe. So there's times when I'm at the playground and I just have to walk away. I can't loom. I got to let them fall off, the jungle gym or whatever they're doing and like, let kids be kids. But for me, that was really like kind of my triggers in terms of when I start feeling the post-traumatic stress. I have a lot of pain. I deal with anxiety from time to time, and sleep is always an issue. But luckily to medical cannabis, that helps alleviate my post-traumatic symptoms.
Definitely. Do you have anything that you want to add to that, Curt, that might maybe?
No, that was great.
Yeah, it was that was a beautiful description. And we are very veteran focused here, but like he did mention that it's not just a military thing. This could be something, anybody who's had childhood trauma, lost a parent, something of that nature. Nobody's trying to discredit your post-traumatic stress whatsoever. In the same boat as any of these veterans who've experienced the same thing. It's a human thing, right? Not a military thing, human thing. But these organizations that we're talking about right here are working to help try and combat the negative side effects of the post-traumatic stress. We obviously can't get rid of it completely, but we can try to give people a purpose again, which I have noticed in myself that, like, since returning home and no longer, I guess ever since getting out, it's hard to like find that same satisfaction, right? Of like your day's work. Everything you do, you feel like maybe I could have did more, maybe I could have did better, maybe it just was boring, you know, like it's tough to find that. And so organizations like Battle Brothers who hit that, and I'm kind of jumping all over your organization. You have a 3-step process, which you mentioned, but I was hoping that you could delve into that. But beforehand, can we talk a little bit more about the origin story of Battle Brothers and like how you guys came together to form that company?
Sure. It was more or less just kind of looking inboard and seeing what was going on with our veterans in terms of the suicide epidemic and the opioid epidemic. There's just too many people we knew who were just fantastic operators. And then they walk out the door and next thing you know, they're committing suicide or they're going through a terrible divorce or whatever's going on. It just wasn't making sense. And really some of it kind of came from, I believe it was Admiral McRaven, who's most popularly known as the gentleman who planned the bin Laden raid. He was the 3-star commander for Joint Special Operations Command. Obviously, Osama bin Laden's gone, and he picked up his 4th star and was in charge of all Special Operations Command. And he really tried to institute a Perez program where it was kind of a mind, body, spirit, where he thought, you know, you got all these great operators, they do amazing things while they're in, but when they leave, they're kind of broken down, both physically and mentally, and that just isn't right. So we really had in our staff, we had personal trainers, we had therapists, we had psychologists, and we really tried to get ahead of problems where they would even deploy downrange with us. So say we had a really bad night where we might have lost someone, you know, you're right in there talking to a psychiatrist the next day, and we made it very painfully clear, don't worry about clearance, nothing like that's going to happen. You just need to start kind of getting things off your chest and start to get ahead of things. And that worked out really well. And I saw how that was helping out the special operations community, but I thought the conventional side wasn't getting that support. And that's where we kind of started thinking, okay, you know, we can start kind of helping them maybe take that little tactical pause and figuring out what they need to do and what's going to be best for them. And the thing at Battle Brothers, there isn't like a point A to Z. You have to go through this whole thing. We customize it towards the individual veteran. So, for example, we have vets call up like, hey, I need some work. Can you find me a job? Not a problem. You know, we have vets who are struggling with alcohol, PTS, opiates, all the above. We can get them to treatment centers. Some of them just need help with VA disability claims. We'll work on that. And some just really want to help out with the medical cannabis research. We got no problem. We can bring it in there. So we really try to customize it to the needs of that veteran. And it's been pretty successful so far.
Hell yeah. There's something there too. That opioid epidemic it really is probably, if you were to look at the numbers, and I didn't do my homework and do so beforehand, but I'm sure it's escalated in veterans if you were to look at the veteran community alone as opposed to the nationwide community, which is really a function of the military itself, right? Like, you are much more likely to get wounded, whether that be from just training operations, like a really bad ankle sprain or pop your meniscus, or I don't know, you know what I mean? And then also from a perspective of active duty, National Guard, any service members not allowed to use cannabis, right? But alcohol is perfectly fine. And alcohol, as we all know, has a tendency to lower inhibitions and allow worse decisions to be made, which frequently leads to more recreational drug use because it's out of your system in typically 3 to 5 days or whatever, which unfortunately was a lot of my story as far as going through the military. Glad that I'm over that at this point. But there's the wounding comes with prescription opioids, right? And then you get out of the military and all of a sudden maybe your insurance isn't good enough to cover your medication cost anymore, or the VA dubs you not wounded enough to get it covered by insurance, something of this nature. And then what do? You look for drugs on the street. But then those pills and actual safe pharmaceuticals that you would find on the street become incredibly expensive. And so the next best thing, oh, let's go into heroin. And now all of the heroin these days is adulterated with fentanyl, right? And so first time could be your last time. Not that I recommend a first time by any means. I'm just like, to me, it feels like it's more prevalent amongst veterans. So I don't know. I just want to make that point clear. And I don't think people always necessarily understand. I don't know if either of you guys are into Five Finger Death Punch at all, the band, but I was just watching their video, The Righteous Side of Hell, or maybe it's called The Wrong Side of Heaven. I always mix it up. Whichever name it is out of those two, and it is a really powerful video. If people haven't seen it, you really need to go watch it. But it like shows veteran homelessness, right? And like as a society, we have a tendency to treat homeless people as less or degenerates, and that's not really okay. And it's even worse, just even as a human sense, but it's even worse when you think about that a good majority of these people who are on the streets are people who have just been not only fighting for the freedoms that you're afforded to have today, but then abandoned by the people that love, or people they love, their family, their friends, and for simply being a little bit damaged from doing so. You know what I mean? Like they volunteered their time. Maybe we got paid. Maybe it was a job. Regardless, it is a crazy job, right? And you go over there, you experience these things, you offer up your life at the end of the day because you don't know if you're coming back, right? And then to come back and get your back turned on by society is just a terrible, terrible thing. So Battle Brothers, like I've said multiple times at this point, is fighting this through your three-phase approach. Can you kind of detail that for me? Like, I know you've mentioned there's psychiatrists. You go through the, oh man, feeling silly because I'm blanking out. Help me out, Bryan.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so really it's a basic three-tier approach of personal, medical, and economic. So look at the personal side. I just compare it to like a big brother, big sister network. So you've had a veteran who has successfully transitioned out. You got an active duty military member making their way through transition, and we just pair them up with a battle brother. And, you know, it's like 24/7. If you want to talk and just kind of vent some things out, they're there for you. One of the nice things we do, if we do help you out with Battle Brothers, we ask you to come back as an ambassador so you can be one of those quote unquote mentors for a newly acquired veteran. We really started seeing just really wasn't working out with VA disability claims, especially with guys in my unit. We were all hitting 80%, which, you know, everyone walks out like, okay, fine, I'm 80% disabled. You don't really think much about it. But then you start seeing some of the people who were deemed 100%. And a lot of guys I was with, you know, kind of joke at our battalion was you need to have a Purple Heart to be in our unit. A lot of these guys were wounded and they just weren't getting the benefits that they deserved. More importantly, their families deserve. And it's a really big deal when you hit that 100% threshold. I mean, it really opens up a lot of opportunities for your loved ones, which is more important than what we're dealing with. I'm sure everyone would agree with that. And then we really started seeing the problem again with the opioid and suicide epidemic on top of the opiates that are being prescribed. So we work with one of my former college roommates. He's our director of treatment and recovery. He owns a treatment center up in Los Angeles. We're located in San Diego. And he can help out veterans all throughout the country through TRICARE and get them in free of charge, which has been really great. And then also, we picked up the medical cannabis research, seeing the benefits that we were going through. And that's where we want to do everything right, have it data-driven results, doing it with Niametic, who's already proven it works, and then having UC Irvine coming on top to be our principal investigator. You know, we just wanted to make sure we're hitting every checkbox for Congress to just make it easy and undeniable that this is a viable option to the opiates being prescribed. And then the last part is just job placement, helping that veteran find a job and have that sense of purpose. And what's great here with Helmand Valley Growers Company, our for-profit company, as we're expanding and growing in the state of California, we're bringing veterans in to work with us because at the end of the day, we want to have veterans making medicine for veterans.
Definitely. So obviously it's not free to run a company, and yours is a not-for-profit. It does get, which we can get into, a little bit funded by your other for-profit company. But I how can people kind of, I'm assuming there's donations involved and people can contribute. What is the best way if somebody is feeling moved to do so right now in order to help this really beautiful company? Because camaraderie is probably the second biggest loss that you experience right upon leaving the military. You never, especially after a deployment, right? You never are going to be around that many people again 24/7, whereas you want to play a game of cards or like, hey, you want to talk about what happened, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just other people don't really go through that same experience, right? So it's a whole different level of camaraderie that you just never really feel again, I think anyways. And so being able to connect people the way that Battle Brothers does and bring vets together so that they have somebody else who has those shared experiences is just a beautiful thing. So anyway, how can people contribute to that if they want to?
Yeah, we got a couple options right from get-go. If you go to www.battlebrothersfoundation.org, you'll see a donation button that you can go right there and make it happen. If you happen to be in California, again, if you purchase any Helmand Valley products, even our apparel line, the profits goes back to Battle Brothers Foundation. We also run events where we'll have things with like QR codes and things of that nature where people can come help and donate. And then also, if you're on Facebook and just say, for example, you're having a birthday and you want to donate proceeds to a charitable fund, you can plug in Battle Brothers Foundation and we'll pop up. I mean, we are a 501c3, and we've had a lot of great outreach with that over the past 6 months where, every other week I get a reminder in my inbox, you just had a charitable donation come through in Facebook. And sometimes they're $1,500, sometimes they're $100. But literally, I've learned that in the nonprofit, literally every dollar counts. And we're going to keep expanding. I'm pretty excited. We just brought on a whole new leadership team that's going to just kind of be running day-to-day operations. And we just really want to make this into a special nationwide nonprofit and to help out as many veterans as possible.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to do so. And in order to help kind of raise a little bit of awareness in our sector of the world, since we're on the other end of the spectrum, obviously this show will do so. But like I mentioned earlier in the episode, we are going to do a giveaway. I didn't take them out, so you're unfortunately not going to be able to see what we're giving away. But there's 4 pipes, 3 of which came from a local company, 585 Glass. And the 4th one was donated by a friend of the show, Tommy Potseed. But so we have these 4 glass bowls. And what I'm going to end up doing is a bingo cage roll. And after 3 full completions, because we've had issues with the last giveaway I did where one kind of popped out. It was weird who I was supposed to give it to. Anyway, after 3 full rotations, the first 4 that pop out are going to, in order of your number popping out, be able to pick which pipe you would prefer from these 4. Now, in order to get entered into this contest, you can really I don't want to limit it because I don't want to prevent people from giving back to veterans. So any company that gives back to veterans, if you support them either through a donation or through a purchase, and they kick back some of the profits to veteran organizations, something of that nature. If you do that, find the Facebook post that I'm going to put up for this with the picture of the pipes, throw a picture of your proof of purchase or whatever in there, and we'll get you entered into the wheel. They're pretty nice pieces. I will do a little video tease on social media and have that post up. Look for that there. We are kind of coming close to the end of part 1 here. So I do want to ask if there is anything that I'm missing that we really should get out to everybody that Battle Brothers is doing, or anything new on the frontier other than the research, which I would like to touch on when we're talking about HVGC.
No, I think we nailed it. Like I said, take a look at the website and follow us on Instagram and everything like that. We're very active on there, and because I see some of the stories and things that we've done for the veterans. And, like I said, I really appreciate the platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Curt, for joining me today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, George, for hopping on and joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, and anybody who does not identify as such, thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to get into part 2 of this. And don't forget to elevate your state of mind.
Thanks to our friends here at Rockbox Recording and Production in Rochester, New York. They are a full professional podcast and video studio designed by a radio guy for podcasters. Audio, video, voiceovers, editing, whatever. Mouth off at Rockbox at rockbox.com.
You can follow Cannabis Cum Laude on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Cannabuzz. Type Cannabis Cum Laude into your search bar and you should be able to find us, but the links will also be posted in the episode notes as well. If you want to help support the show, head on over to Patreon, and that will ensure that we're able to keep the best quality sound and video coming to you on a regular basis. And if you liked what you heard today, please don't forget to rate and review the show.